Good morning, Houston. Welcome back to Right Path Real Estate Radio. This is Jerry Taw in the studio here with Daniel this morning. And we're here to talk about property management. Or the way I like to say it is that, we provide relief to owners from managing their own rental properties. And so they can grow their rental portfolio.
Yes.
Is kind of our goal.
So I don't know if you were listening to the first segment.
I was not.
But one of the things we were talking about is, and it's the exact same, it transfers from construction, it transfers right into the property management. When people are trying to manage their own properties,
right,
on the construction side, they're lying to themselves about the real numbers. Right? Because to me, when you become an investor, you have to, you can't say, oh, I'm making this much on this investment if you're working it like a job. Right? And it's the same thing on the property management side.
Right.
Somebody says, oh, I make this much money off my they call it passive income, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, who's your property? Oh, I manage my own properties. Well, how is that passive?
It's not.
Right? And it's not even a little bit.
Right.
And then number two, every second, every minute, every hour you spend managing your own properties is either an hour that you should be living the life that you want to live,
right,
or you should be going out and doing the work to acquire more properties.
Exactly.
Right? So a lot of times people say, oh, I can save money by doing this, but in the grand scheme of things, you're costing yourself so much more.
Right. And the question is, what are you giving up in order to do that?
Exactly.
Right?
It's the opportunity cost.
Is opportunity cost. So are you, giving up spending time with your family, or is it buying more investment properties?
Yes.
So you're giving something up in order to manage when you manage your own properties.
Yes. And there's no way you get to. I have this conversation about mowing yards all the time, right? Why are you mowing your own yard? It's
right.
$25-$30 to get your yard mowed if it's a normal yard.
Right.
If you want to do landscaping, maybe you spend a couple extra $100 twice a year.
Right.
But the grand scheme of things, you're spending too much time doing that. There's other things that are more valuable, and then you get well, it relaxes me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, then come mow my yard. Right.
Right.
If you're looking for relaxation, I can help you twice a month.
Right.
Every couple of weeks. Plenty of relaxation to go around. But that's not really the case. That's just lies people tell themselves to continue to make excuses for doing what they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Right.
And then we get the other cases where, one thing we learn is, I've learned recently, is that, we don't want to be delegated the property management role.
Yeah.
We want people to leverage us, meaning like trust us with the property.
So when you say delegated the property management role, that means they're still managing. They're just managing through you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now I feel like I almost become a personal assistant.
So now you're not only you a babysitter for the tenant, but you're a personal assistant for the mom and dad, right?
And like one of the things that we do almost every single time is like if an owner calls us like, hey, is the property leased out? And there's so much noise, right? I mean, it's up like this, and we got agents that tell us like, "Hey, we're going to apply," and guess what? They don't apply for the house. And all that communication we cannot tell the owners because it's going to create a emotionally roller coaster.
Well, not only that, but
them.
just the sheer volume of communication. Like for me, I've got stuff to do. Right now, I handle the disposition for both of Tom's house buying companies. Right, and when I dispose of a property. Everything's inked, earnest money's collected. Unless there's a problem, I'm out. Right? But immediately I start getting the emails from the title companies, and it's like, hey, we've got a transaction coordinator. Take me off of the email chain. Right. Like, I don't want to know what's happening day to day in the title work and all that. It makes no difference to me. If there's an issue and you need me to contact my buyer, you let me know. Right. But other than that, I'm out. I don't want to have to delete those emails. I don't want to, and a lot of times you hear, when especially if it's a newer person and they're nervous about I've got to get a tenant in there, right? They're going to be constantly checking in, and what they don't realize is every minute they take from you guys to communicate needlessly. That's a minute they're taking away from you guys being able to do what you're supposed to be doing. Right. Which is leasing the property, getting tenants in the property, managing the other tenants, right? And they constantly want an update. Hey, what's going on? Like y'all haven't done it before. Right. You know what I mean?
And like we had a client recently where, we had a house and I suggested to him like, hey, this is where the price point needs to be. Yeah. And we're like $80 off. Okay. And it's literally, you can see the train tracks across the street.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, this is not. I don't know what you think you have.
Yeah, but these are active train tracks, bro.
Yeah, like I mean, you can literally catch a train if you just walk across the street, and they called every single day, and I'm like, nothing would make me happier to lease out your property.
Yeah,
like
if anything, we could stop these phone calls.
Yeah, like nothing would make me I mean, our system is set up where I make no money. Like there's nothing in it for me for your house to just sit there vacant at all, and that's the way we have it. It's like if it's vacant, we make no money. So we have every interest possible for all this time and effort going out to property, making sure it's okay, getting it clean and stuff like that. We want to get it leased. Trust me, like more than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny because they took it back, and then it's still been on the market for like another 3 months, and they refused to lower the price, which is like mind blowing to me.
So they're just sitting there waiting for that one lucky tenant to show up and say, "Hey, I'll overpay."
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times for me, if I'm going in at a higher rent rate, I've got to understand, and I'm sure you guys do a good job of explaining, hey, it's your property. We'll list it at what you want, but you've got to understand that we're suggesting it should be here,
right? And
you're going here. So when it sits, we got to know whose fault that is.
Right.
That's your choice, not our fault. Right.
And market changes too.
Absolutely.
Like for example, school started again.
Yes.
So we've had a little bit turn in market where it is slower. It's slower now.
Absolutely.
So generally when we get a brand new remodel, like if Fast Track does a brand new remodel, like we do try to move the market a little bit. Yeah. Meaning we try to get a little bit more value out of it.
Try to push it because of the quality of the product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, we decrease it from there, and we continually decrease until we get the amount of attraction that we feel like it's sufficient where we're going to get a lease.
So let's talk a little bit about leasing in the off season. And the first time I heard this, I heard it from you, and it was completely mind blowing to me. And it was like, why isn't this taught everywhere? Why doesn't everybody suggest to do this? But let's say you do lease in November. Right. And it obviously when your lease is up in May or June, it's a lot better scenario than for your lease to be up in November. So you suggested that, or when y'all have that situation, instead of signing a 12-month lease, you'll sign an 18 or 19-month lease.
Correct.
To make the lease come up in the peak season.
Right.
And once you can get that rolling, it's easy to kind of stay in that area, right? You've got a 3 or 4 month gap of busy season.
Right.
So even if you've got a 2-week turnover, things like that, if you're pricing it right, you should be able to get somebody else in there pretty quickly.
Yeah. And that's not to say you can't lease in November, December. It's just the amount of people looking for houses.
Yes.
It's just a lot less. But yeah, I mean, preferably you would always want to push it to where, starting March 31st at the earliest.
That's genius. I mean, and let's be honest, we're different here than we are. I mean, if you were doing rentals in Cleveland,
right?
Obviously, November's probably going to be a little bit tougher, right? It's
going to be real tough
because of the weather and just but the amount of population that we've got coming here with the population growth and how fast that's happening. I mean, what how many months inventory of rentals do we typically have, even in an off month?
So I hate to give a broad, because it's so subdivision neighborhood specific.
Yeah, because Houston is really weird like that, right?
It is super weird. I mean, you'll get and neighborhoods turn too, and I talked this about on the show before, but there's a subdivision in Richmond called Terra, which is a very big rental subdivision.
Yeah.
And at one point, I mean, it was a great. I own one in there, always move, and then one time, 15 available rentals on the market at the same time, and it was just like, okay, I mean, just think, if you move 3 a month, right, and there's 15 available, that's 5. You're 5 months out.
Yeah.
Before that's the absorption rate.
Adds a lot to the inventory.
It adds a lot to the inventory, and then you see this in a lot of neighborhoods up in Spring, like Timberlane, Greengate, Burnham Wood, like where there's just you got to be careful of those neighborhoods that either you got to put the best product or the best price, and you don't want to be priced too high, no matter what, just because there's always just an unusual amount of the neighborhood's just has a lot of rent. Yeah, there's a lot to choose from.
And typically, people are when they're shopping for a rental, they're shopping neighborhoods or areas, right, because of their work, because of their church, because of their family, that sort of thing. So if there's a lot available in your small area, that's gonna affect it.
And when people are looking for rentals to purchase, sold comps is great, but be careful to look at the actives also, because again, if you got 15, 20 rentals on the market, just think like, hey, either, is it the race to the bottom or you providing a better product?
Yeah.
The race to the bottom meaning you drop it to the lowest price possible.
Yeah, to get the first person that comes in the neighborhood.
Exactly,
yeah.
and just try to attract that one person.
Interesting.
Or if I tell you, it should lease out pretty quick, and then we look at the actives and there's 15, it's like, oh, well, okay, I take that back.
Yeah. Psych. Just playing. Awesome. So if you could give somebody who's doing their first rental before they've bought it, they're in the contracting phase. They're gonna get some work done on it. They're gonna do all that. Then they're gonna refi out of it. Then they're gonna come to you to get a tenant. If you could talk to all those people before they got to the point where they called you, what would you tell them? If you knew they were coming 3-4 months down the road, and you could give them a little business-sized card that had 1 or 2 statements on it to give them a certain heads up on something, what would you tell those people? First
off is dealing with new investors. When you hear stories about previous investors telling stories, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that you got to keep in mind is that a lot of times they're telling their stories about their home runs.
Yes, of course.
Like the
people
best,
don't get up and talk about base hits.
No one's talking about the singles, doubles, triples at all. They're talking about the home run that knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean, it was the most amazing deal on this planet, and it comes out, once every 20, 30 deals or whatever. So you got to keep that in mind that when you're hearing these stories that there's the singles, doubles, and triples. They could be good too.
So, and I can tell you, we have that issue oftentimes just in our group of students, right? Because we'll do a case study once a month, and we'll talk about a rental or a flip or that one of our students did, or a group of them, and the numbers obviously. Every now and then we will get somebody up there with a base hit,
right?
But very often it's a home run type of thing that you want to share with other people,
right?
And things like that. And then people get involved in the group, and then they're sitting around waiting on a deal, and they're like, well, it's 15% cash on cash, but the equity capture is only 6%.
Right.
I was really hoping for 10 or 15% equity capture and 15% cash on cash, and you're like. And I'd like to get in for under 20 out of pocket. And you're like, those deals happen.
Right.
And they're great when they do.
Yeah.
But, like you said, does it happen 1 out of 15, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30?
Yeah.
Right? Those deals happen. You hit home runs when you get up to bat enough times.
Right.
And you're okay with base hits. If you never swing because you know it's going to be a base hit, you're never going to hit a home run.
1 minute.
Exactly. If you're swinging for fences all the time, you're going to strike out more than often.
You're going to strike out a lot. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people get caught up in trying to either get that home run deal, one that they get greedy and end up losing money or hurting themselves in or out.
Because you're taking bigger risks too when you're trying to hit for home runs in life. Yeah.
Right? In anything in life. That's why, the best home run hitters of all time have the highest strikeout counts of all time. Right? It's just the way it works. And it's the same thing in business and in life.
Right.
The more risk you take, the more times you're gonna strike out.
Right.
It's just the name of the game. Hey, you can reach Jerry at propertycarehouston.com. That's www.propertycarehouston.com. 713-489-7653. Get these guys on your team. They are the best in the business, and they're very competitive when it comes to pricing. So give them a holler.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, appreciate you coming out, man.
Yep.
Always